If you've ever been stuck at Bangalore's Silkboard Junction, you know the feeling of a total standstill. But that gridlock doesn't stay on the asphalt. When trucks carrying fresh produce sit idling for hours, the supply at local markets drops, and the price of vegetables can spike by the time you get there. The global economy operates on this exact same principle. International trade relies on a network of massive, inescapable maritime expressways. Look at a map of the Middle East. The entire system funnels through two incredibly narrow corridors, the Strait of Hormuz and the Red Sea. Just like that local traffic jam, a bottleneck at either of these junctions dictates exactly what everyday goods are available and exactly how much you're going to pay for them, no matter where you live. Right now, those expressways are facing a massive pileup. The ongoing U.S.-Israel war on Iran recently escalated with an explicit threat from the U.S. president to strike Iranian energy infrastructure. At the same time, Yemen's Houthis have publicly stated they see no reason to halt their ongoing attacks on commercial shipping in the Red Sea. Despite the U.S. pausing those strikes and extending the ultimatum until April 6th, the relief never materialized. Instead, Wall Street had its worst day since the war started, and indices across Asia plummeted. The head of the World Trade Organization warned that the global trading system is now experiencing its worst disruptions in the past 80 years. To understand why, we have to look at how a military attack that hasn't even happened yet can trigger a real-time global economic crash. Roughly 20% of the world's total oil supply passes through the Strait of Hormuz. It relies heavily on exposed offshore terminals to load massive volumes of crude onto tankers. This is a visualization of how oil markets actually work. They run on futures trading. Traders buy contracts for oil today based on the fear of shortages tomorrow. If they think a strait might close next week, they buy now. This chart shows the result of that panic. Immediately following the strike threats, the price of Brent crude, a major global benchmark, shot up to $108 a barrel. That specific price spike is a massive problem for countries like India, which imports more than 80% of its crude oil. The physical supply hasn't even been disrupted yet, but the mere threat of a blockade acts as an immediate, invisible tax, inflating the base price of fuel long before it ever reaches a local petrol pump. Over in the Red Sea, the dynamic is different, but the result is the same. Houthi threats are forcing massive cargo ships to abandon what is normally the fastest shipping route between Asia and Europe. Instead, these vessels are executing a mandatory detour, traveling completely around the continent of Africa via the Cape of Good Hope. This detour burns thousands of tons of additional fuel and extends delivery times by weeks. Exploding shipping costs eat directly into corporate revenue. When delivery takes longer and costs more, profit margins shrink, and investors respond by dumping their shares in major global companies. A longer maritime physical route directly translates into wealth destruction for company shareholders. Diplomacy hasn't calmed the volatility. Iran recently allowed 10 oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz as a sign of good faith, yet the S&P 500 still sank, and major indices in South Korea and Japan fell sharply. This happens because of the fear premium. This is the quantifiable financial cost of market uncertainty. Investors pricing in the worst-case scenario, regardless of whether any actual physical damage has occurred. This fear causes global investors to pull their capital out of emerging markets, places like India's Dalal Street, and move it into safe havens like gold and United States Treasury bonds. In global finance, the uncertainty of a paused strike is punished almost as severely as actual destruction. The anticipation alone guarantees widespread market losses. For the average consumer, all of this geopolitical maneuvering results in one heavy consequence: imported inflation. Because oil fuels the entire transportation sector, expensive crude directly raises the cost of moving anything. That means daily necessities, your vegetables, electronics, and clothes, all become more expensive to get to the store shelf. It creates a double whammy effect. You get hit at the grocery store by inflated prices, and you get hit a second time when you check your shrinking mutual funds or retirement portfolio. The global economy is a tightly closed loop. Your local domestic market is entirely tethered to these distant maritime choke points. As long as international trade relies on a few narrow waterways in the Middle East, a single political ultimatum half a world away will continue to dictate your local cost of living.